Okay, what did you want, Elaine? Checkbook?
I don't need the checks. I just need to check off something. Correct. Thank you. What is that, a truck? What is that noise?
It's probably the garbage, maybe. Okay, it's Tuesday, no? Yeah,
It comes on Tuesday?
you should come. Time's at 8 o'clock. You should come 8 o'clock. It's a different company though, I see. Nobody's here yet. Time's at-
You know, BRS has a tent.
I don't hear, darling.
BRS has a tent. Did
Yeah.
you know that?
Yeah,
Daily
Yeah.
outdoor minion in the BRS tent.
yeah.
And they have a minion in the Rand Sanctuary. The tent is located outside of the Sender's Library. And he gives today the Pasha perspectives for today at 9:30. Rabbi Goldberg.
Yeah.
and it's sponsored by Becky and Avi Katz and family in memory of David Grossman, David Ben Menachem, their beloved father and grandfather.
David Grossman. Who sponsored it?
I just read it.
I don't know. I didn't. I want to hear the name again.
Becky and Avi Katz
Katz. Oh,
and family
yeah.
in memory of David Grossman,
No.
David Ben Menachem Manis, their beloved father and grandfather.
Mhm.
They're having something, a Torah Eretz Yisrael, a 5-part series from leading Israeli Tanakh educators. Part 3, Tuesday, November 24th at 12 p.m.
What time? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Rabbi Alex Israel. The Discard or Diversity, Jewish Conflict and Unity from the Bible to Today, sponsored by Dr. Sam and Naomi Abramovitz and family.
What time is the parsha? 9:30?
With Goldberg, 9:30. In the base medrash of Boca at 3 p.m., you have Rabbi Philip Moskowitz. And at 3:45, you have Rabbi Chaim Eisenstein. And at 4:30, you have Rabbi Raphael Stoll.
I think that's the kollel, no?
The Yitzchak Belizin base medrash of Boca Raton. One is talking about Melachos of Shabbos,
Malachas of Shabbos.
and the other one is Hilchas Yichud, Hichos, Hilchas, and the other is Sugyas of Simcha and Avodas Hashem. Forgive my Hebrew. People of the Book, Tuesday at 7:30, Rabbi Philip Moskowitz and Rabbi Simcha Bonim of Pils. And then Rabbi Goldberg will be talking about living with Emunah on Wednesday at 8:45. Behind the Bima, Rabbi Goldberg on Wednesday at 9 p.m. My God.
Today's the 24th. Oh boy, I have to take out Thanksgiving and look up my December birthdays. I know I got Jordana and Mira. Mira? Yeah. January.
Ephraim is in December. And my father's and Anita.
Yeah. Mm. Ah, Boy, everybody's late today. Hello, anybody coming today? Today's day off? How come it's their pissed? Today's Tuesday. Why is it so late? Must have had to slow down or what to
Have you
believe.
got it on?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Oh, someone's there. Who was that? Someone's. Oh, Zev. Is that Zev? Yes, Zev.
Good morning, Marvin.
Good morning, Zev. How are you this morning?
Baruch Hashem.
Good.
Okay. How are you?
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem Yom Yom.
What?
Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. Someone else is trying. Oh, there's somebody. And that is.
From your First Service Residential Community Association Manager. Thank you. Time and day not set. We've been trying to reach you about
Somebody's radio is on.
Day not set. You have one old message. Time and day message deleted. End of messages.
There's somebody. And there is Ken.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Harvey.
How you doing?
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Ken.
How you doing? All right?
So far,
Mhm.
and slow diving it today?
No, just the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, couldn't catch my breath.
Oh, I know. I think that. All right.
All right, Lois, the guys are on already. Everyone's on, Bob's on.
And Deb is on.
Ted is on, good, Ted. Mandy is on.
I have to get a cup of coffee.
All right.
Can you see
Zev
me?
is on, good. All right. I'm going to start with the sponsors, and then we'll go into the Gemara for today. Gemara is really a continuation of our theme from yesterday, so we'll keep that in mind in a moment. Okay. A Year of Learning by Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Leibush, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara, Nissim ben Fardosa. Paul and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, Cheryl Sher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel ben Rav Shimon. Have a month of learning, sponsored by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gittelbas Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir ben Yaakov. Agila and Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Eti bat Yitzchak Elchanan. Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa. Also Phyllis and Chaim Reese, in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham. Have a week of learning by Lela and Siggy Bessler, in memory of her father, Mordechai ben Yisrael Yitzchak. Today is the 24th. Marilyn and Eugene Milanik, a day of learning in memory of her father, Shmuel ben Binyamin. Today also Eliza Paleyev, a day of learning in memory of her father, Avram Yitzchak ben Meir Matisyahu Halevi. Shamas have an aliyah, Krank Rafia, Velta Yeshira Shema Talia, L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched yah.
Amen.
Okay? All right. We stopped yesterday on the bottom of Bet Amud Beis, really the last line. Okay, but I just want to quick review, and then we'll go right on. Okay, remember we're still dealing with the definition of the term or. Okay, and the Gemara tried to give us examples where, in essence, there were psukim that seemed to imply that or meant day,
Hey,
or daylight or light, as opposed to urta, which meant evening. Okay. So now, having seen at least an attempt on the part of the Gemara to, I'll say, discredit those arguments suggesting or meant day or daylight, okay, and presenting arguments from psukim and situations that it wanted to present it as evening. We come back then again to those arguments again to try to clarify that or does not refer to day, but refers to instead to evening. Okay, so we're going to continue with a number of others. The last one, just to point out, was the fact that when Rosh Chodesh was done by use of
torches.
torches, right? Okay, that it was done the evening before. Okay, right, and that was the last example we had. Okay. Okay, and then I threw in one example, one quick example at the end, right? With another attempt, giving the idea that Kohanim, if they were up all night taking care of the pieces of Korban on the Mizbeach, the next morning they still had to wash, okay? But they said that there the language is not applicable because it was the word ora as opposed to or. Okay, that's where we finished it, and we pick up now that last line. Meitive Marzutra challenged. Okay, so what is he challenging? He's challenging Rav Huna's opinion that or meant day. Okay, and he's giving another example. So that we see now as we start Gimel Amud Aleph, Hamapelet, a woman who has a miscarriage, right? When did she have it? Or l'shmonim ve'echad, on the, let's call it the eve, okay, or the or of the 81st day, having given birth to a daughter, okay? What happens? Beit Shammai potrin mikorban. Beit Shammai says she exempts from bringing another korban, okay? Beit Hillel mechayvin. And Beit Hillel, however, disagrees and says that she does have the obligation to bring another korban. Kamru lahen, Beit Hillel Beit Shammai. And so Beit Hillel challenges Beit Shammai with the following: Ma'ishna, or shmonim ve'echad miyom shmonim ve'echad. What's the difference, okay, between that being done on the eve of the 81st day versus the 81st day itself during the daytime of that day? Okay, namely, im shava lo l'tuma lo yishvelo l'korban. Okay, if we've already made a decision and everyone tends to accept that in that situation, she would be subject to Tuma, okay, shouldn't she also be subject to a Korban as well? okay, that if she had discharge, okay, on that night, okay, and it would render her tame, shouldn't she be required then to have to bring a second korban? Okay, Midikamar Beit Hillel Beit Shammai, Ma'ishna or Shmonim ve'echad miyom Shmonim ve'echad. Since we see that Beit Hillel in this argument says, what difference is there between or of the 81st day versus the day itself of the 81st day? Shmamina, what do we learn from this? Indeed, or tahu. That or
Evening.
comes to tell us, excuse me, that it means night. Shmamina. Indeed, we learn from this that's the case. Again, another attempt to another objection to Rav Huna's view that or was day. Okay. The Gemara tells us, Meitive, Yechol Yehei Ne'echal. It's possible, says regarding the eating of shlamim, okay, that we all know it's a day, a night, and a day, right? Yechol Yehei Ne'echal or L'Shlishi. We might think it be possible, right, to eat the shlamim offering, or of the third day. Okay, v'dinhu, and this seems logical or seems reasonable. Zvachim ne'achalim liyom echad, that some offerings, right, are eaten for one day. Ushlamim ne'achalim l'shnei yamim, and shlamim, in particular, are eaten for 2 days. Malahalan laila echad hayom, the same way there, okay, in one case of one offering, we have the night following after the day. Afkan laila achar hayom. So here too we have an example of night following after day. Talmud Loma, and therefore the text, however, tells us and teaches us, Biyom zivchachem ye'echel, umimacharad v'hanotar ad yom. Okay, the pasuk specifically tells us, on the day of your understood shlamim, sacrifice it shall be eaten, and on the next day, that which remains until day. Okay, what does that mean? Ba'od yom hu ne'achal, ve'eno ne'achal la'or shlishi. That, I'm going to explain it, throughout that second day, while it's still day, it can be eaten, but it may not be eaten on the or of the third day. Yechol yisaref miyad, says the Gemara. We may have thought then that maybe the shlamim needs to be burnt immediately, right, after nightfall of the second day, right? V'dinhu, and this does appear reasonable. Zvachim nechalim liyom v'layla achad, that normal offerings are eaten for a day and a night, right? One, at one point. Ushlamim ne'achalim l'shnei yamim v'layla echad, and shlamim are eaten for 2 days and a single night. Ma lahalan techef la'achila sreifa, namely, with the same way that after eating, in other words, the time period which permits the eating, what's left is burnt, right? Afkan tekef la'achila sreifa. So here too, with regards to shlamim, we might consider that after the time period for which it's permitted eating, it would be burnt. Talmud Loma, however, the text again tells us the following, right? V'hanotar mi basar hazevach b'yom hashlishi ba'esh yisaref. Okay, Namely, what is it telling us? The pasuk says, what is left over from the meat of the shlamim offering, on the third day it shall be burnt. Okay? Namely, okay, Ba'esh Yisrael, and understanding that, Bayom ata soref v'i ata sorfo balayla, that you burn it in the daytime and you do not burn it at night. Midika amar yehene echal or l'shlishi. Since we find it says that it may be eaten on the or of the third day, alma or tahu. Therefore, it tells us that or implies evening. Shmamina. Indeed, that's what we learn from this. Okay. Having seen now at least two examples of texts, all right, that citations that disagree with Rav Huna's opinion that or is referred to day, but instead refers to evening, we might have thought, okay, that we would come to a conclusion and be done with this proof. That, however, is not the case. The Gemara continues with a braita. Tashma, listen to the following braita, which again is going to deal with the topic. Or Shayom HaKippurim, the or of Yom Kippurim, mitpalel sheva umitvadeh. One prays seven, in other words, seven blessings of the Amida, and as part of that confesses one's sins. Shachrit, the morning service of Yom Kippur, mitpalel sheva umitvadeh. Again, one prays seven and confesses. B'musaf, mitpalel sheva umitvadeh. In the Musaf, one prays seven and confesses. B'mincha, mitpalel sheva umitvadeh. Okay, at mincha time, one prays seven and confesses. Ba'arvit, says the Braita, Tanakama of the Braita, in the Arvit, mitpalel me'ein shmona asar, we pray I'll call it for the moment, an abbreviated version of the Shmona Esrei. Okay, right, it's an abridged, right, of the usual Shmona Esrei. However, says Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, Omer Mishum Avotav, he disagrees, and he argues in the name of his forefathers, Mitpalel Shmona Asar Shlemot, we pray the complete Shmona Esrei. Mepnei shetzarich lomar havdalah b'chonein hadat.
Right.
Because we must recite havdalah in the chonein hadat, right? God blessing, acknowledging, perspective times. Alma, therefore, or tahu. Therefore, that tells us that the phrase or in this braita must refer to evening, shmamina. Indeed, we learn from that as well. Furthermore, another braita, tashma. Listen, says the following braita. Again, same is going to be a similar approach. Detani debei Shmuel, as was taught in the Academy of Shmuel, Leile arba'a asar bodkin et hachametz le'or haner. Braita sounds familiar, right? Because it's very similar to our Mishnah. According to the Academy of Shmuel, on the evenings of the 14th, we search for chametz by the light of the candle. Alma, therefore, or tahu. This tells us again, says that or means evening. Okay. Now, Ela ben Rav Huna uvein Rav Yehuda. But whether it's Rav Huna's view or Rav Yehuda's view, the Kuli Alma or Urtuhu, Velo Pligi. Okay? According to this piece in the Gemara, this Braita, whether it's the view of Rav Huna or the view of Rav Yehuda, everyone, in other words, both of them agree that or actually stands for evening. Okay? However, they don't actually disagree. What happens? Mar ki atre, umar ki atre. One master according to his place, and another master according to his place. Namely, the Gemara gives further clarification. Ba'atre de Rav hu huna karu naghe. That in the place where Rav Huna was, they called it naghe, light. Okay? In other words, it could be that we're referring to an example that it is the last light before, okay, it gets totally dark. Right? Uba'atre de Rav Yehuda karu lele. And in the place of Rav, Yehuda, they call it night. Vatana didan. And our Tana, okay, my Tama lo katane lele. What's the reason that he did not call it night? In other words, start off not only the Mishnah, but the Masechet with the phrase, right? Lishna ma'al Yahu denakat. He decided to choose, let's call it refined language, okay, is what he chose. Ukeda Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, as like the view of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, le'olam al yotzi adam davar muguna bepiv. That a person should never, okay, express something from his mouth with coarse language. Shaharei akam hakatuv shmona otiot v'lo hotzi davar migune mepiv. Because we see Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi darshaned, okay, that the text of the Torah itself, okay, could have used fewer letters, right? 8 letters in this case, and did not want to express it in coarse language. Shnei Amar, as we see in the following, okay, example, min ha-behema ha-tahora, from the tahor animal, or we might say it, okay, and then umin ha-behema asher einena tahora, the animal which is not tahora, okay, implying it could have just as been as easy for the Torah to say in the second case, umin ha-behema ha-tme'ah, but instead of using the word ha-tme'ah, instead it expanded the language not to use right, and said asher einena tahora. Now, seeing this, okay, that this emphasis of sensitivity to language and not coarse language, Gemara is now going to, I'm going to suggest, take a sidebar, if you will, and begin some discussion or some review of this concept, of this idea. Rav Papa Amar, says Rav Papa, Teisha Shene Amar, it was 9 letters, as in the following, Ki hiyeh b'cha ish asher lo yiyeh tahor, mikra laila. Okay? In other words, again, a person who's not tahor because of an incident at night, right? So in other words, again, extra language. Ravina Amar, Eser, right? 10 letters. Vav de tahor, okay? Namely that, again, he's not cleansed, therefore tameh, right? Because he could have said something else, right? The vav of tahor adds. And now another example. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Sheish Esrei. The Torah expands itself to 16 letters. Shene Amar. Why? Because again we see a pasuk. Ki Amar Mikrahu Bilti Tahorhu Ki Lo Tahor. Right? An incident has occurred. He's not tahor, for he hasn't been cleansed. Right? And instead, of course, it would have been sufficient for the Torah to have simply said, Mar Mikrahu. Okay? Tanya Debe Rabbi Yishmael. And now we see a Braita taught in the Academy of Rabbi Yishmael. Le'olam yisaper Adam bilashon nikiah. Okay? A person should always speak in refined language. Shehare bezav karo merkav. Because in the incident, the situation of a zav, we find that the Torah refers to it more as a situation of merkav, of somebody who is basically riding. Okay? Ubeisha, and in regards to a woman, karu moshav. If she's a zava, instead of referring to her that, they sometimes will refer to it in describing the situation as moshav, a situation of seating, as opposed to her actual status. Okay, so in this case, both we referring to zav or zava, we use lashon nikiya, right? Vino ve'omer, and we say, in a further example, okay, right, the following, right? V'tivchar lashon arumim, okay? Namely, one should choose the language of those who are intelligent, who are wise, who are, I want to use a sort of clever, okay? Va'omer, and we say an example, V'dat siftei barur milalo, okay? And the lips express refined knowledge. My va'omer, what do we mean when we say, and it says, V'chitema, if you want to say, Hani mili b'deoraita, that this only applies to the language found in the Torah, okay, to biblical verses, Ava b'dera'abanan, lo, but with regard to statements of the rabbis, it doesn't seem to apply, rabbinic teachings. Tashma, listen to the following Braita. V'omer v'tivchar lashon arumim. And it says to choose the language of the wise or the clever, right? Proper choice. V'chitema, and if you want to say hani mili b'derabanan, maybe you want to say that this only applies to the rabbis and how they recite their teachings. Aval b'mile da'alma lo, but in language in general, in other words, of the, let's say, the common people or ordinary matters, that doesn't apply. V'omer, we would again, and it says, V'dat siftei barur milalo. Okay, again, we're pointing out lips express refined knowledge. So the Gemara wants to raise a question about this use of either refined language or use of, let's say, sensitive language, ubeisha, but in regards to the status of the woman, the example we gave with the zava. Lokativ ba merkav. It doesn't always refer to it as in the language of writing, vahakativ, because don't we have a situation where it's written, v'tekam rivka v'na'arotea, v'tekarvna al hagmalim. Okay, namely the pasuk says she was riding, doesn't always apply. Here it says Rebecca went up with her maidens and they rode on the camels. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's Lashon Nikiyah for her having her period, right? Hatam mishum be'ituta digmalim. There it was because of the fear of riding so high, okay? That's what it's referring to, okay? Right? V'takam rivkavna, right? V'takavna agamalim, right? Or chahi, that is the normal way of speaking. V'haktiv, but isn't it also written, Vayikach Moshe et ishto, ve'et banav vayakivem al hachamor, that Moshe took his wife and his sons, and they rode on the donkey. Okay, so there too. How can you say that Merkav is Lashon Nikiyah for the woman's Zava status? Hatam, he says there in that case also, right? Mishum Banav. It was because the children were riding with the mother, Orcha Hiu. That's the normal use of the riding. In other words, Art Scroll suggests that instead of riding side saddle, she was riding with her legs split on either side of the animal, in both cases. That might be one explanation, okay? But let's see, we'll go on, okay? Vahaktiv, but isn't it written in another pasuk? Vehi rochevet al hachamor, that she is riding on the donkey. Okay, that's the example from Book of Shmuel. Okay, that in a case, hatam mishum beituta delelia. That's because of fear of the night, or chahu, and therefore because of fear of riding at night, she rode in the normal way. Ve'bayatema. And if you want, I might say as follows, Mishum be'ituta delelia leka. Maybe it wasn't because of fear of the night, Mishum be'ituta de David ika. But maybe it was because of fear of David, okay? That in that case, Abigail was riding to beg David not to punish her husband, Naval. Vibayat ema. And if you want, I might say, be'ituta de David nami leka, that in regards to the fear of David, that wasn't there. Mishum be'ituta dahar ika, and maybe she was afraid more because of the mountainous areas. Okay, in that case, right? And that's why she rode in that manner. Now, ba'oraita milo kativ tameh. But the Gemara wants to continue and clarify. You said previously that use of Lashon Nikiyah and refraining from language that might be derogatory. But we find in other cases where the Torah does use more direct, I'll say, language. All right, in the Torah, are you saying that it's not written Tameh? Elakol Hecha. Okay, but what we're saying here, rather where we see this opportunity for more direct language or coarse language and more refined language where they're together, namely, Mishta'e B'lashon Nikiyah. The Torah usually speaks in refined language. Kol hecha de nefishin mili. Okay, but wherever there is extensive, more refined language, mishtae bilashon ktsara, that the Torah may speak in abbreviated language. Kida amar Rav Huna amar Rav, as suggested by Rav Huna in the name of Rav. Va'amre la amar Rav Huna amar Rav mishum Rabbi Meir. And others say it was Rav Huna who said it in the name of Rav, on the authority of Rabbi Meir. Le'olam yishne adam letalmido derech ktsara, that a person should always teach his student in the most direct, concise manner. V'kol hecha dechi hadade ninhu mishtai b'lashon kavod. Okay? And wherever two statements, okay, are hadade, they are together, and they're more or less of equal size, mishtai, one should utilize more respectable language. Okay, so the Gemara continues with this example, this discussion. Vaha rochevet vioshevet. But here we see the language that she rides or she's sitting. The chi hadade ninu. And these are similar expressions. They're one next to another. Okay. V'ka'amar rochevet. Rochevet kativ. Okay. When it says it's written, it means it's written, notice, without the vav. And therefore, that's the shorter expression. Now, having said that, we're continuing with this sidebar of use of Lashon Nikiya, of proper language. And now we suggest a couple of stories. Right? Hinhu Trei Talmidei. There were these two students, Dahavu Yadve Kame de Rav, that was sitting before Rav. Chad Amar, according to one, says, Shavitinan hai shma'ata kidavar echad misan kan. Okay, he basically said kidavar acher misan kan. I'm sorry. The one student responded that in learning this, okay, I compare it to something that is davar acher. Okay, namely misan kan. Davar acher, of course, referring here to another kind of animal that's not kosher, particularly a pig. Okay, and I'm tired, I'm stuck. Okay, I'm filled to the point that I can't understand it anymore. V'chad amar, and the other student says, Shavitinan hai shma'ata in the kigedi misankan. And he said, I compared learning of this issue to a different animal, a kosher animal, okay? A kid, a small goat that's tired, and therefore it has to be carried, has to be helped. So what happens? What was the result? Velo ishta'e Rav bahade dahaich. And Rav did not speak with that student who made the first statement anymore. Okay. Another case. Hanhu Trei Talmide, Dahavu Yadve Kame de Hillel. There were these two students who were sitting before Hillel. V'chad minaihu Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. And one of them was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Va'amre la Kame de Rebbe. And there are those, however, who say that was two students sitting before Rebbe. V'chad minaihu Rabbi Yochanan. And one of them was Rabbi Yochanan. Chad Amar, one says, Mipnei ma botzrin b'tahara ve'ein moskin b'tahara. What is the reason we say that they harvest olives in a state of purity, but they don't harvest something else. They harvest grapes, let's say, in a state of purity, but they don't harvest olives in a state of purity. The Chadamar, and the other student said, okay, Mipnei ma botzrim b'tahara. What's the reason that they harvest grapes in purity? Umoskin b'tuma, and they harvest the olives in tuma. Amar, so the teacher's response, Muftach ani bazeh shemoreh hora'ah b'Yisrael, that the one who spoke with Lashon Nikiyah, in more precise, proper, refined language, he ultimately will be someone who will teach halakha, who will teach lessons among the Jewish people. Lo hayam yamim mu'atim ad shehora hora'ah b'Yisrael. Okay, and basically, in only a short period of time, a few days, it turns out that he was indeed rendering legal decisions for the Jewish people. Okay? Another story. Hinhu tlata kahane. Now we get to 3 kohanim. Chad amar laho higianu kapol. One says, I received my priestly portion the size of a beam. V'chad amar, and another said, Higiani kazayat. I received my priestly portion the size of an olive. V'chad amar higiani kaznav halita'ah. And a third said, I received my priestly portion the size of the tail of a lizard. Okay. Badku acharav umatzu bo shemetz pasul. They checked after this third individual, and they found that he had a trace of disqualification. In other words, the implication was that his family lineage was questionable in terms of his Kohen status. Okay. Going on. Vahatanya. But aren't we taught elsewhere in a Braita, Ein bodkin min hamizbeach ulamala, that we do not check a person's priestly lineage, okay, only up to a point where it's clear whether or not they had an ancestor who actually served in the Beit HaMikdash, okay, who served by the Mizbeach, and no further. Lo tema shemetz pasul, don't say that he had a shemetz pasul, that he had this kind of disqualifying family genealogical flaw. Ema shachatz pasul, but rather say he had an attitude of arrogance, and that was his downfall. Okay? Say that was the case. Ve'ibayat ema, and if you want, I would say sha'ani hatam, that it's a little bit different there. The ihu the ara nafshe, that he himself, okay, disqualified himself, said something, did something that made himself bad. In other words, that compromised his status. Okay, another story. Okay, hahu ar ma'a. We have a situation of an Aramean. Dahava salik va'achil psachim b'Yushalayim, that he would go and he would eat Korban Pesach in Jerusalem. Okay, Amar K'tiv. Okay, and it says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera says it was written, right? Ko ben nechar lo yachal bo. The pasuk says that a stranger should not eat of it. Kol arel lo yachal bo. That anyone who is uncircumcised should not eat from it. Va'ana haka achilna mishufrei shufrei. Okay, but why I eat from the best of the best? Okay, this is what he said to Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. Okay, now Amar le Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, mi kasafu lach ma'alia. Okay, you think they really give you from the best? Okay, they should be giving it to you from the fat tail. Amar le lo. He says, no, they don't give it to me from that. So Rav Yehuda ben Betera tells him, Amri le, right? Tells him as follows. Kisel kat lahatam, so to speak, the next time you go there, Emelaho safule me'alia. Tell them they should feed you from the fat tail. Kisalik, when he went, Amar laho, he said to them, me'alia safule, from the fat tail you should give it to me. Amrule, now we know that the fat tail is a piece that is offered on the Mizbeach to Hashem. It's not given to anyone to eat.
Right.
Okay, so what happens? They said to him, Alia legavoa salka, right? That the fat tail is burnt up to heaven. Okay, Amrule, and they said to him, Man amar lachachi, who was it that told you, so to speak, to request that particular piece? Amar laho Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. He says it was Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. Amru, and they said, Mai hai dekaman. What is, who is this? What is this individual that's before us? Barku batre. They investigated after him. Va'ashkachuhu da'ar ma'ahu. And they found that he was a Aramaean, right? A non-Jew who was uncircumcised and doing that. Ukatluhu, and they executed him. Shalchule the Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, and so from the temple in Jerusalem, they sent a message to Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, right? The following: Shalem lach Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, greetings of peace to you, Rabbi ben Yehuda ben Betera. Da'at b'nitzavim u'mutzudatcha prusa b'Yerushalayim. That you are located in Nitzavim. Remember, Nitzavim was a Jewish community in Bavel, but on the border close to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, but that his, so to speak, his net, his learning, the respect that they had for him. Okay. In other words, was such that he was concerned, and therefore it spread all the way to Jerusalem. Okay. Now, another story. Rav Kahana Chalash. Rav Kahana was ill. Shadruha Rabbanan, the Rabbi Yoshua, bereid the Rav Idi, and that rabbi sent, okay, Rabbi Yoshua, the son of Rav Idi, to check on him. Amrule, they said to him, Zil bedok ma'idine. Go and examine what his status is, what condition he's in. Ata, he went. Ashkache dinach nafshe. When he arrived, he found, right, that Rav Kahana had passed away. Kar'e lilvushe. He tore his garment. Vahadre lekriya. Excuse me, like kar'e la'achore, and he turned his garment around so that the rip, the kriya, would be in the back. Okay, ubache, and he cried over the passing of an important sage. Va'ate, and he came back. Amrule nach nafshe. And they asked him, did he pass away? Amar laho, he said to them, Ana lo ka'amina. I did not specifically say it. Motzi davar hu ksil. Why? Because we have a pasuk that says one who motzi diba, one who speaks negative language, negative message, is like a fool. Okay? Now we get to another story with the following. Yochanan chakuka'a nafak lekriyata. Okay, this Yochanan chakuka, he was either from the town, okay, of Chakuka, or that was his profession. He was an engraver, okay, and he was going from town to town. Ki'ata, when he came, Amrule, they said to him, people, they chitin asu yafot, was the wheat done well? In other words, was it a good wheat harvest? Okay, Amar lahem, he said to them, Se'orim asu yafot. The barley crop turned out well. Amrule, they said to him, say, leave. Ubasar lesusim lechamorim. Go, that's normally foodstuffs for horses and donkeys and things like that. Dichtiv, why? Because it's written, Haseorim v'hateven lesusim v'lerechesh. Okay, that namely, that the barley and straw for the horses and the fast mounts. Amai have le lamema. What should he or what could he have said? Eshtakad na'asu chitin yafot. Last year, the wheat harvest turned out nicely. Inami, or he could have said also, adashim na'asu yafot. Namely, that lentils, which is also a important foodstuff for people, also that turned out a good harvest. And that's where we're going to stop today. Okay, but tomorrow when we pick up on Dalid, we're going to see that this we continue to see this side discourse on the importance of using careful language. Okay, and I will wish everybody a easy and a safe and a healthy day. Take care, everybody.
So,
Thank you. Same to you.
yeah,
Thank you. Have a good day, Rabbi.
okay,
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Take care.
have a good day. Okay. Whew. Okay.